So I recently watched a video on YouTube, and it had a lot of views, and it was really popular about 2 weeks ago. And it really got to me. It was a video, it was a self-made video by a guy, I assume wearing a GoPro, and he was walking down a street, and sorry, my first is turning on. He was walking down the street with an M16, or an AR-15, it was one of the two. Now, for anyone that doesn't know, these are assault rifles. These are devices that can fire anywhere between 10 to 30 rounds in a magazine. Now, this was in Texas, and this guy was walking down the street with his son, mind you, carrying this gun. So, it was on the countryside, but it's kind of scary. I mean, I want to give some background to this. I live in a mostly hunting area with forests and stuff, so it's kind of a mix between a city life and a more out-of-the-way life. And I've took rides in the summer, so I can tell you I've seen people with shotguns walking down roads that aren't more like county roads during hunting season, so I understand the aspect of hunting and carrying a gun around. And I don't really feel too afraid of that because I feel like, well, they're out there hunting, and they're going to use the road as an access point as long as they're not aiming at the cars or anything. I don't see them as a direct threat. But to see someone walking down the road with an M16 would alert me, even, and I feel like it would alert others. And what ended up happening was, this guy had basically walking on the street, which I think is crazy, and a bad influence on your son to be walking around with a high-powered assault rifle. And this wasn't a semi-automatic, this was a fully automatic gun. And to be walking around with your son is saddening. So, of course, people saw this and they were calling the cops. They're like, man, we're seeing this guy walking down the street with an assault rifle. Something's not right. And it's just, I mean, all the recent events that's happened, to see someone walking down the street with that kind of weapon, and it's scary. And to see a child with them, you don't know if that person's being held hostage or, is just their son. I mean, you really don't know, and it's a scary aspect. So, like anyone would do, the neighbors called the cops, or the people that saw this guy, I'm presuming this guy lived close around since he was walking, and they called him like, hey, can you get a cop out here? So originally one cop shows up and he's like, okay, this guy has an actual assault rifle, and you can kind of see it in the officer's stance that it's uncommon to see a person walking down the street with an assault rifle. And the cop's talking to him, and the cop's trying to stay very much within the law and explain to this guy, hey, you shouldn't be walking down the street with an assault rifle. And of course, the gun activist and this guy carrying the gun decides to go all lawful and try to explain how it's illegal for him to carry this weapon down the street, and how the police officer is trying to disarm him, and how the guy even quotes one time in the video, and this blows my mind. The guy carrying the gun said, I have the right to shoot back at you if you were approaching me and threatening me. It blows my mind. Blows my mind that, first of all, this guy walking down the street with an assault rifle would even conceive the idea to walk down the street with an assault rifle, but then to say that to a cop, to say, if you come up behind me, it was a threat, and I could have shot you. Bad idea. Very bad idea. So, obviously this officer feels threatened, and of course he's taking the appropriate action. I feel like he took great control of the situation, as much as anyone could, and of course he calls for a supervisor, and so he puts this guy arms behind his back. The guy then hands the camera to his son and asks his son to hold the camera. Now, I feel like in this situation the son kind of felt obligated to do it because it was his father, but you can kind of tell hesitant the son didn't want to. And at moments in the video you hear the son, and actually you can visibly see the son crying. So obviously his son is disheartened by what's happening. And, the officer has to then disarm this guy. And the guy is very belligerent in saying, you have no right to disarm me, and, all this kind of crazy terms. And you're watching the video, and it really, I don't know how anyone could not side against this guy. And what the officer said, and I completely agree, he said, while it is legal to have a concealed carry, what you are doing by walking down the street with an assault rifle is you're inflicting panic onto the neighbors of this area. And then the question arises, is this legal? Legally standpoint, you can, in Texas it's a lot more open than, say, the state in Ohio that I live in, but walking down the street in an assault rifle, I don't think any judge or jury would allow. And so the officer and the neighbors had the right to disarm this guy. And so the idea behind this is, and it brings up the question, why would you walk down the street with an assault rifle? And why would you do it assuming that you had the full force of the law behind you? And in this case, this guy didn't, you know? And a bad influence on his son as well. Now, the guy does get arrested. I didn't really follow up on the case, so I don't know what happened to the guy. But I think people need to realize, and I mean, I'm a gun activist. I believe in gun rights and to the full extent. But there's a limit to context. You know, just as I wouldn't carry a machete into the mall, you wouldn't bring an assault rifle down the street. You know, it's excessive, it's unnecessary, and it's belligerent. It is complete, unexcusable infliction of potential harm on people. I mean, if you were walking with your children down the street and you saw a guy coming at you with another 13-year-old boy carrying an assault rifle, I can guarantee you anyone, and I mean anyone, would feel threatened at that sight. And that's where it gets to the point of fear. And this guy then is inflicting fear on others. And it's just, it blows my mind. It really does. That I don't have the problem, I mean, this is now personally my opinion, I don't have the problem with people walking down the road during a hunting season. Let me explicitly say that, a hunting season with, say, a shotgun. Because I feel, or a hunting rifle, I feel like that is being used for hunting purposes, and they're just using or utilizing the road as a way to get between hunting grounds. I don't have a problem with people wearing concealed carries. Now, that gets into details of the reasoning and the paperwork and all the background checks they need to have that. But the question is arised, should people be allowed to carry assault rifles down the street? And I think in this situation we say no, and I think most of America agrees with this, and most of the world agrees with this standpoint, that you don't walk down the street with a fully automatic assault rifle whatsoever. So thanks for watching, guys. This is just my opinion. You are full right to disagree, but I encourage your discussion. So thanks for watching.